relationship experience is an interesting topic to talk.
Absolutely.
There's so many different things that we can talk about. I am your host, Sarah J, and we are here with the educational experts. We've got Adrian, we've got Krista, and we're hitting you with lesson number 9. This is what communication has to do with it.
What communication has to do with it, has to do with it.
Now, Krista, you usually kick it off with a question. Do you
do.
have something for us?
I have this thing called like backwards compliments. You ever
Okay.
heard where someone like compliments you, but it's like not a compliment?
Yeah, like 5 minutes later you
You're
realize.
like, wait a
Ouch.
minute. Have you ever like misinterpreted something that someone has said? Maybe they intended it a different way and you interpret it better, or vice versa, where you've interpreted it worse. Have you ever had a moment where you walked away and you went, yeah, that's not at all what I thought they meant, or what I thought I meant?
I feel like every single time.
Like my entire life.
Right? I think I have a lot of energy to me, and I think there's been multiple situations where somebody has given me a backhanded compliment about my energy. Maybe it was a little too much, but I leave going, I am the most. I am the most.
I am the most.
Like the
I am
most
the most
fun.
fun.
And then maybe going back and being like, oh, they don't think I'm fun. I get that. Okay, so yes, definitely.
So I had this moment, it was probably 10 years ago now, which is like a great misinterpretation of me, because I can be the most. And I was on stage, and it was right after President Obama had just been elected. And my boss was like, hey, we're doing a presentation, just casually mention something about President Obama. And I was like, okay,
Sure.
why not? And so this is what I said, and then I will give the backstory of what it meant. And so what I said, I walked up on stage and I said, hey, you know, President Obama just got elected. I celebrated by making a puzzle, but it was so difficult because it was all one color.
Oh,
Now,
Oh,
that's what I said.
okay.
The entire room fell silent. And I was like, whatever, continue doing my thing. And when I got off the stage, my boss pulls me, he's like, are you racist? And I was like, no, my father is black. Like, I'm not racist at all. And he's like, why would you say that? And I was like, because the puzzle was blue. And I poked up the puzzle, and I had to bring it to work. The entire background, it was President Obama's head in an entire blue background. So I'm thinking it's the blue background that was really difficult. And
Right.
they're thinking his skin tone.
Right.
But
Okay.
I was not trying to communicate that, but it's bad communication and interpretation. So the next time we didn't get there, I like brought the puzzle. And I was like, here's the puzzle. It's blue. It has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with the background. A complete mess of communication. So,
Oh.
man.
yeah.
Good to know you're not racist. Are you racist?
He was like,
What?
who did I hire? I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what
I
it is.
killed it up there. What are you talking
They
about?
loved me.
Yeah.
Did you have anything?
I've been sitting here thinking about it as you guys are telling yours, and the only thing I could come up with that I remember is I used to have a mohawk when I was young, growing
Okay.
up. I got a video on YouTube of me doing the jerk. If you guys know what that is, it's like,
Okay.
it's like a dance move, yeah. And so like I used to have
Trying
a
to go
mohawk.
viral.
Yeah. And so I used to have a mohawk, and I remember the first time I finally took it off. It took so long, but I just had, this is the haircut I've had ever since. And Marlena, Marlena was like, "Oh, it looks like you look handsome." And so I was like, "What about the mohawk?" She's like, I mean, it was cute, and I was like, "Oh gosh."
Oh,
So maybe
no.
like I was just kind of like, "Oh, did you not like it?" But I was assuming that she didn't like it, but she just like liked the new look kind of thing.
Okay.
But I could have easily taken it the wrong way.
For
And,
sure.
I didn't read it that way.
Hair's personal to people.
Yeah,
Especially if
yeah.
you rocked one style for a long time and you were under an impression that people were like, whoa.
Yeah, and I mean Marlena, when she gets her hair done, she like I have to compliment it.
She
Like I
doing the-
yeah, she, like or if I miss it or I don't say anything, she'll be like, "You didn't even like take
No,
the time
it's
to look at my hair." I'm
important.
like, "Well, I thought it looked great, but I didn't say it. I should have said it." Right?
You're gonna lie,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I got my haircut recently, and I'd shown my husband the picture beforehand. He was like, "Oh, that's a good choice." And then I got it cut, and he's like, "You cut it off?" And I was like, "It was short in the photo." And he was like, "Was it?" I'm like, "Yes."
What are
You had a preview.
He's like, "Was it?"
And now all he does is he sees it. And he's like, "It's gonna grow out." I'm like, thanks,
Oh
babe.
gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So this is your moment if you're listening right now. Take a look at your partner or somebody that you love.
You look
and give them
good.
a nice compliment, not a backhanded compliment,
Yeah.
like a legit compliment, please.
So funny. Your wife has great hair, though.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
You're listening, Marlena?
Yeah.
I'll show you
Comments all
pictures.
over.
I'll show you
Oh,
pictures. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So, what communication has got to do with it? What are the 4 danger signs in communication? Because everybody feels like we can do it. We do it really, really well, but obviously,
You probably
not so
remember
much.
most of them.
Are you saying
So-
that I remember most of
No.
them?
I'm gonna name mine.
I'm just saying, I feel like it's always on. TV
Yeah, no.
for you. You're
I'm gonna-
always
I'm
coming
gonna-
out to
I'm
me.
gonna
You're
name-
always. It's always about what I have to say.
So I'll name a couple and then you fill in the gaps.
Okay.
Right?
Did you see what I just did?
Yeah. That was perfect prime
Danger
example.
sign 1.
Oh, we should have me. Yeah. So
Always, you never.
yeah. Put down validation, right?
Escalation.
Escalation.
Which is what I was doing there, making it bigger
Just
than what it
louder.
really is.
Yeah,
Louder.
escalating the voice.
Yeah.
And then what are some other ones? Put down,
The always and never is a huge one, which is just sweeping statements like
Yeah.
you never take out the garbage. You always change your mind. It's not isolated. It becomes about everything.
Okay.
And then
Name calling,
the name calling is a big one, and kitchen sinking.
kitchen sink.
What's that?
Kitchen sinking is you never leave your dishes for a long period of time, and eventually all the gunk from the top dishes goes to the bottom, and once you clean up, it's just nasty. And it's
I would love to say I have no idea what you're
yeah,
talking
no,
about.
everyone has done that at least once in their life, or they're like, we'll do them tomorrow. And kitchen sinking is where everything. It's not just about what just happened. It's every single thing that's ever happened in this relationship plus every other relationship, and blah, 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 and it just all gets thrown together.
Okay.
Because you never actually deal with it. So then you're arguing and you bring up something from 1996. Remember that one time because you never dealt with it. So then that comes up and everything else does too.
It's
And
from an
it's just-
ex. Well, they did this to me, and you're
Right.
like,
You
I'm
could
not
do
even
it
the same
too.
person.
Yeah.
It
Gosh.
becomes everything.
So, I mean, obviously you're speaking out loud, so you would think that that's communication. But the moment that those 4 things, being, disrespectful, raising your voice, talking over somebody, devaluing them completely, that is going to set the other person off. And they might pick a different one of those 4 that is not working very well. And now
Yeah.
we're not communicating. We're just in an all-out battle about who can be louder and who can go longer.
Yeah.
Well, communication takes 2 people. It takes a listener and a speaker. And if you're just speaking, then you're not actively communicating, which is taking the time to listen. You have to do both actions
Yeah.
to communicate well. And these 4 danger sides are when you're trying to communicate well and the other person isn't able to, or someone's trying to communicate with you and you're not able to. You automatically respond to any negative or any corrective or any sort of pushback with these kind of reactions. And those are not healthy communication skills. And if you're going to be in a relationship, you got to talk.
Yes.
You got to communicate. And 70% of communication is actually not with your mouth.
Yes, because it's all about the extra, the tone of voice and
Body
who,
language.
yeah. Oh, gosh, which you don't see when you are on social media. So FYI, if you are in a verbal conversation with somebody over text message, you're losing a lot of what is
Absolutely.
actually going on. Lots
It's a lot
of
easier to
miscommunications.
misinterpret. Yeah.
Okay. And so what are some bad ways to complain? Ooh, okay. I thought, yeah, I want to know, what is this? What's a bad way to complain? So this is like frowned upon. We should try to avoid complaining like this. Complaining is not productive. Yes?
Well, there's a difference between complaining and whining.
Okay.
And I think some people confuse them.
Okay.
Like, if I have food, I order at a restaurant, and I get the wrong dish, and I go to the waiter and tell them this isn't the dish I wanted, that's a complaint.
Okay.
If I get food that I ordered and it's perfectly made, but I don't enjoy it, I'm like, ew, it's just gross.
It
That's
just
a
wasn't what I
whine.
thought it was gonna be. Yeah.
That's
okay.
whining.
That's whining.
Complaint is like something maybe possibly what you wanted or didn't want, or maybe misunderstood has happened, and you need to tell somebody.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're dating, and this happened. Actually, I don't think I've ever told you this story.
Oh.
When my husband and I had first started dating, we were going to go to this restaurant, the local mall, and we were going to meet there at 6. So I'm there, and I'm ready, and he's not there. and he's still not there. And he had a bad phone at the time that kept dying constantly.
Oh.
So then his phone's not answering. And I'm chilling 2 hours later. I don't know why I stayed. I look back and I'm like, oh, I should have given up, but I didn't. I stayed 2 hours. Obviously, I was madly in love. And he finally shows up, and I had to be like, I wanted everything within me wanted just to rip into him.
Yeah.
I was furious. Well, Kenyans have their own timeline, so I knew that.
Wow.
So timekeeping as a culture was not a cultural thing.
2
But
hours.
2 hours, I was like, I want to kill you,
Yeah.
and I'm choosing not to kill you. So I just went, next time if you're gonna be late, let me know and bring gifts.
Ooh, nice one.
And I calmed myself, and guess what? Like, it was such a, he's never really been that, he's been late, but like 10 minutes, but never significantly late again.
So how did you not carry that on with you? Because I even though it's a Kenyan thing, I still would feel like 2 hours, that's intentional. 10 minutes running late, 2
No,
hours.
2 hours is-
What were you up to for those
He
2
was
hours?
at work. And,
Okay.
But I've had other Kenyan friends show up 3 to 4 hours late.
Ugh.
So this
Okay.
was not unusual
Right.
for culture.
Right.
So I had to take a step back. And what really was the deciding factor was I really like this guy.
Okay.
And he's pretty amazing. And I don't want to disrespect him. Even though I'm frustrated,
Right.
even though I'm mad, I like him and I don't want to be mean. And so I made the conscious effort to not freak out, which was very difficult.
What a healthy
And now
thought
we're married.
process.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had 2 hours to think about it.
Yeah.
True.
So,
Yeah, I'm putting myself in that situation, and I feel like at 2 hours, I would have lost it.
Yeah.
I would have probably been pretty cool right when we came, and then I would have just unleashed. But obviously, we would not have gotten married.
No.
And so that's
did
the
work out.
difference of your personality and his personality, and understand. I love that you said I respected him enough that, and it sounds so easy when you say that,
Yeah.
but taking a deep breath and thinking about the whys and who they are kind of helps a little bit. So complaining, yeah,
That's a great way to complain.
Okay.
Take in consideration bad ways to complain is you are never on time.
Yeah.
But if they are never on time, that's
You're
a
telling me in the
statement.
whole scheme of your relationship in their entire life they've never been on time once.
With me. No,
And no one has check marked that many things.
Yeah.
That's fair to say. A blanket statement. You
Yes.
have
Yeah.
never done this in your
You
entire life.
always or you never. Right?
So
You
unhealthy.
can't use that.
Because the person who hears that immediately goes, "What are you talking about? Like you're just not realizing all the positive." Because we always think, "I'm trying,
Mhm.
so you've put in an effort, and you're not recognizing my effort, so I'm going to give up." And so they're not hearing what you're saying; they're just feeling attacked.
Okay.
So
make sure you're being very aware of the words that you are using and how you are using them, because if you do that blanket statement, they're not listening anymore. Now they're defensive and they're wanting to make sure that you're not
always-
communicating right now.
Yeah, bad ways to complain. You can look at it as you're always on the defense or ready to rebuttal. You're not really listening, so mind reading could be a big one.
oh, that's a
yeah, like
huge one.
You're having a conversation. I'm having a conversation with my wife, and next thing you know, I'm like, I already know what you're gonna say. And so I'm reading her mind when she wasn't even going to go there in
Right.
the first place. But I'm not even letting her speak. I'm not listening. I'm ready for the rebuttal. And it's just, you're talking to a brick wall and you're not going to get anywhere. Right? Not gonna
Do
solve
you
anything.
separate yourselves for a minute and come back to it?
You could.
Or
Yeah, that's definitely something we teach. Time out.
Timeouts.
Yeah, and you could never tell someone you need a timeout. It's always
Calm
Yeah.
down.
yeah, you can't. Yeah, so the best way is I need a timeout. I don't want to say something that's going to hurt you, so I will.
take a five
Take a
minute
5-minute
to your
break.
corners.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the best way to deal with it. I feel. And then I always tell students, like, it's never like when you're in a relationship or you're going to be in a relationship in the future. It's look at it this way. It's never you against the other person. It's always you and the other person against whatever's trying to separate you. That issue. So come together and solve this issue so you can move forward. How could we work together to solve this issue and then move forward? You know, so they're not the enemy. They're not the person you're supposed to be fighting. It's that issue that's trying to.
That's beautiful. These are such good tools that you should use from the very, very beginning in every relationship that you're working on. Because you, just like any relationship, you have to practice the tools that you're given, and you need to work on that stuff. So those are powerful things, because as you get older and the farther in your relationship, if you don't do those things, your arguments are going to get wild. This still probably will get wild sometimes. But
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, the biggest thing also is like don't attack. Don't name call. It's not a blame. There's this ping pong blame. Well, you didn't take out the garbage. Well, you didn't wash the dishes. Well, and then it becomes a back and forth, and we just try to see who did the worst thing. And instead of resolving it, it's I'm going to throw out all your dirty laundry, and you're going to throw out all my dirty laundry, and we're just going to create a pile of complaints because I don't want to admit I'm wrong, and I don't actually want to tell you in a nice way. And it just compiles. It becomes just a back and forth blame argument.
So if you're back and forth just blaming each other over and over again, how do you get out of a cycle like that where you're so angry because like you have valid points, they have valid points, but you are continuing to do the same exact thing over and over again?
Well, I think that's why trusted adults are so important, because sometimes you do need that third person perspective, and you need someone to look from because if it's a continual talking to a brick wall and not being able to solve something, and it's going on for weeks and weeks, that's when you're like, okay, we need someone to come in and see what's really going on and dig underneath, because it could be an underlying issue. And so, yes, you got to get help.
Okay.
You know,
it could be something that both of you are very upset about, but neither of you have even recognized that that's the actual thing you're upset about. And if you had a third person that can bring that up, then maybe you're like, oh gosh, okay, that's what it was about. Sometimes you'll laugh at how stupid that unknown little thing is that both of you are holding on to so tightly. But
yeah, and I think so, like me and my wife, that's why we took parental counseling, because there was some, like, we would talk about this, how we're going to raise him, Azariah, and because I was raised a different way, a certain way, and she was raised a certain, we couldn't come to grips, so we needed someone to come on the outside into our relationship and kind of see and give us that perspective and shed light on that issue so that we could resolve it and move forward. Because we weren't doing it ourselves. Yeah.
I think a big step of a healthy relationship and healthy communication is at some point you have to realize that you make mistakes. And there need to be like, okay, we're not perfect. And to stop the blame back and forth, you need to be like, you're right, I didn't do the dishes. Or I said I was going to show up and I was 2 hours late. And I'm sorry. And own what own your stuff.
Take ownership.
Take ownership, yes.
Yeah.
And then
important.
have you seen the videos where people get really mad and the other person like just apologizes and the other person's like, I don't know how to de-escalate because I came ready to fight, you didn't fight. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of thing. You immediately disarm the other person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Being big enough to know that you make mistakes and taking a deep breath and knowing that you guys care about each other. You really, really do. And in the end, you don't want to hurt each other, but you're around each other 24/7, and it makes it easier to fight the person that you're closest to. Not healthy, not the way that it should be, but just part of day-to-day human normal activity stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're talking about communication. What is the speaker-listener technique?
I feel like Adrian is the master of the speaker listener technique.
Okay.
Ooh, wow, that's a big thank you so much for that, because I don't even feel like I am, but speaker listener technique, it's you have one speaker, you have one listener. In this lesson we talk about the brain. We talk about the amygdala and the frontal lobe cortex. The amygdala is what processes your fight or flight, so like your response.
Okay.
Right, so when someone yells at you, what are you going to do? You're going to respond with yelling back. Yeah, most people are going to do that, right? But your frontal lobe cortex responds, it processes. So you're no longer responding from your amygdala, but now from your frontal lobe cortex, you're responding in a more somber way, a way that could help alleviate some of that friction that's being caused. And the speaker listener has a lot to do with that, because you have to be a great listener in order to be a good speaker. And I think listening is it's an art, it's a talent. Like, there's a lot of people that just they can only listen for so long. It looks like, let me see if there's a way I could kind of paint the picture.
Do we want to practice?
Yeah, let's practice.
Yeah, you want to come at me?
Yeah.
All right.
You come at me.
Oh man, but I usually make more mistakes than you. So there, you could do it as a complaint or a compliment. So I'm going to use a compliment because I have nothing to complain about with Adrian. But Adrian, the other day at work, when you really spend a lot of energy and time putting in the notes for the podcast, I was like, dang, this guy's doing such a good job, and I'm really appreciating that. But it made me realize, man, I haven't put enough effort in.
So what I heard you say was the other day when we were at work and you saw me putting the notes in the podcast, you appreciated the work that I was doing.
Yeah. So
And you
he
say thank you, and you sit in that for a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of listening, reiterating back what they said so they understand that you just listened to them, and then responding to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, super important.
You know, and it's easy to twist it and be like, hey, when you didn't show up to the date 2 hours late, it made me feel dumb. And you're like, what? And then immediately you want to get defensive. But I was in that meeting that went long and I couldn't control it. That's not the speaker listener technique. It's just listening and reiterating what you heard, period.
okay.
Because maybe the person speaking is not communicating what they want to communicate. So when you say it back to them, no, that's not what I meant at all.
If this is so, you're listening to this right now, and you just went, it just went over your head. You have no idea what just happened. There are other episodes that we have talked about with the colors, and I feel like when we've talked about communication, this is the other side. So this speaker listener technique is the other side of communication, because you can speak all day long, but if nobody is understanding what you're saying, it does not matter. And then they're going to interpret it in their own way. So if you are not getting that feedback back where you both are on the same page and you both have acknowledged what you meant, I said it, I heard you say it back to me in a way and that is full on beautiful communication, because both of you are on the same page. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys can answer this, but I was thinking about, so the amygdala and the frontal cortex, that is not fully developed yet until you're like 25. So keep in mind that at 13, 14, 15, you are learning these skills. You are not going to be the most amazing at it, but the only way that you can be the most amazing at it is by practicing it over and over and over again, and listening and being able to interpret what somebody is saying and take out all of the things that make you feel insecure or defensive. Man, you're gonna be unstoppable. That is a superpower for sure, and that's a free one. Woo!
I've had the speaker listener when I was really emotional and I was trying to like break up in a relationship. I was trying to communicate why I didn't want to be with this person without being a jerk, and they're like, so you don't hate me? And I was like, no, but you don't want to be with me? No. Then why can't we be together? Because I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
We realize in that technique sometimes we are failing as a communicator. Like, I'm not being clear. And that's why it's so useful, but it takes both participants. You can't show up in an argument and be like, I'm going to speak and you're going to listen. If they're not aware of the technique and they're not willing to participate, you're just creating a mess. You both have to be saying, we're going to use this technique together and understand what the technique is.
So I can't imagine a 13-year-old is going to be like, all right, we're going to use the speaker listener technique right now. How do you naturally get into using that and getting the other person to understand what you're trying to do?
We've had, so at Natchez, there was, we taught one year, there was a girl when we taught this lesson, and she was like, hey, I'm going to use this on my sister, and she's about 15.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because she's always eating my lunch. Every time I go home, I don't have anything to eat because she'll take my lunch and eat it, and then I get home, and I've been so mad, but I don't know how to, I don't want to argue, so I'm going to use this. And so she went home, she's like, hey, when you eat my lunch, it makes me feel like you don't care about me because I don't have anything to eat. And so then her sister, unfamiliar with this, she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know it made you feel that way. But because she explained in detail what happened, her sister never ate her lunch again, I guess, after that.
Oh, that's good.
So, but yeah, I mean, I guess you can begin to apply it, and it might not be understood, but you beginning that process, again, brain conditioning, will condition your brain to get there at a sooner level.
Beautiful.
And then it'll help other people too, because in communicating how you feel and what happened, then they understand.
Because like how you had mentioned earlier, like we all come from different backgrounds. We all were raised differently. We all have witnessed what love looks like differently. So you showing off a very powerful way to communicate. Somebody might have never experienced something that's that straightforward, and there was no meanness about it. There was no name calling. There was nothing about it that made you feel bad. What a nice way to communicate. That might be somebody's very first experience, and then they'd be like, oh, I can use that too. It's kind of like a smile. You
Yeah.
know, it travels
Like,
farther
oh, wow.
than you know.
Yeah.
That communication can travel as farther as you know. I like that. Okay, so we've got even more methods about communication. I love this.
Yeah.
What is the WWA method? Are we talking
Yes,
about
it's
not-
WWE.
Oh, okay, not
it's the
WWE.
wrestling method. Now, this goes along with the speaker listener, and it's really just talking about what exactly happens. The WWA stands for what happens, when and where, and how it affected me. So WWA. And this can work with a compliment or a complaint, but as long as you're hitting all of those parts. So you could say, man, you're never on time. I hate it when you're never on time. Or, kind of what Adrian already mentioned, when you didn't show up for our date 2 hours late, you know, it made me feel devalued. It really upset me and hurt my feelings. Well, now they know what happened, how it affected me, and when and where. There's a big difference between that and you were late, you're always late.
That just
You don't
creates
care about me.
friction. Yeah.
You're wanting to fight. You don't
Yeah.
even want to fight. But again, you have conditioned yourself to feel like this is the normal way that you communicate. So if you're not getting loud and there's not anger, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
That you just have to flip the script a little bit.
Absolutely. That's the beautiful thing about the brain is you could recondition it. And
Mm-hmm.
using these methods early on out will help you prevent a lot of that escalation in the future.
I love this stuff because this is good. This is good life stuff for anybody. Seriously, I come home. When we finish these things, I drive home and I'm just like, man, that was awesome. I love this stuff. So, okay, so there are some problems with some of these methods. The solving method, is there a problem or something that you could go into detail about the solving method and why there's some issues with that one?
Oh, the problem solving method.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So
There's a problem with the solving
There is
method.
a problem solving method. What is the problem solving method? There we go. I should read it correctly.
No, that's all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
It's a problem itself.
Yeah, the problem solving method is so we have this illustration of a volcano, and we have like the issues at the very top, and then if you begin to go down that volcano, because volcanoes erupt, and when people get mad, it erupts. There are different little things up here that tick you, but the main reason these things are ticking you is because you haven't taken care of the thing at the very bottom. And so the problem solving method has a lot more to do with all of these different methods coming together and working for you against the put downs, the escalation, the invalidation, and all those other ones. It's pretty much getting down to the root cause of what is actually happening. And that's kind of like what you mentioned earlier when two people are just going at it for days, weeks, months. Now you need someone to come in and help, or you got to really get you got to say, hey, I take ownership. You know what? It's maybe something that I've been dealing with, and that's hard to do sometimes on your own. So
The problem solving method, we always tell the students, like, this is used in a committed relationship. Like, you're not using the problem solving method on day 3. Like, this is, you've invested, you know you're committed, because this takes a time to work out. So what it looks like is you come up with whatever the issue is. You can never show up on time for a date. Let's just say that's the issue. What is the core issue? The one person is going to list up all the reasons why or how they would fix it. Well, let's move the date later, or let's make it be flexible. You're both going to come up with ideas. Then you're going to compare, and you're going to check off all the ones that don't work for both of you, and you're going to keep the 2 or 3 that maybe are the same on the list.
Okay.
And then you're going to try them out. And you're going to say, all right, the one thing that did work was don't plan dates during the week, only on the weekend. All right, so now for the next month, only dates on Saturdays. And did that change the time problem? And then you reevaluate. And if there's still no fix, then we have to bring even more depth. But it's getting to a solution to try to fix whatever it is. And you just don't do that casually. You can do that with friends, families, family members, coworkers, and romantic partners, but these are committed relationships where you're both willing to sit down, bring ideas to the table, compare ideas, come up with a solution, test out the solution.
I love that. You want them in your life and you want to have a full-on meaningful relationship, but you have hit ahead where you are just kind of, that's really good. Those are really, really good ways to break it down. And then reassess and see where you're at, and then probably do it again if you need to.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
And if you're married, this
Yeah.
is one that you could use over and over again
Yeah.
throughout the length, because you're going to run into other problems that are that are going to happen, and that's okay. That's just life.
For sure. Well, we want, and I love that. The volcano, you want to find the root. There's always a deeper meaning when you have an argument. There is something that is unresolved between both of you, and probably, and I hate to say this, but both of you are looking at completely different things.
Absolutely.
And that's why you continue arguing, because maybe you heard something that is devaluing that one little thing that you're holding on to, but you have never said it out loud, because mind reading, they should know. Nobody knows. They don't know until you say it out loud.
And communicate it clearly.
And even if you say it out loud and you feel that you have communicated clearly and you still are in this spot, these are just fantastic ways to start picking and trying to figure out how to make your relationship stronger and better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do want to add that because we're talking to students,
Yes.
I want to stress the importance of these methods and everything we've been giving you, all the tools, because people will go and get married and have friction and pay thousands of dollars in counseling, but you're getting it all for free right here. And so, literally, you're getting it all for free. So take advantage of this podcast, take advantage of all the tools we're giving you, and apply them early on now so that you don't have to pay thousands of dollars in counseling in the future.
Exactly. Everybody gets into relationships in a different way, and there could be a baby that brought you together, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it means you didn't fully know this person to begin with, and then you bring a child into it. So gosh, now you really want these free tools. So definitely use them, share them with anybody that you think would value it. Come back, ask your questions, and until next time, thank you so much.